South fans, we've come away with a very, very important 2-3 victory here at Kingston Heath in what was an absolutely cracking game for the neutral. You know, if you haven't seen this match, if you weren't in the stadium, I'd estimate there was, in excess of 2,000 people. A superb atmosphere at Kingston Heath. That's near capacity, really, to be fair. It'd be interesting to see if there is an official crowd reported. I don't think there will be, but you can take it to the bank that the crowd was in excess of 2,000 today, and that's not an inflated figure like we see in the closed shop of Africa's A-League tournament cartel of fake football. So yeah, if you weren't in the stadium, if you haven't had the chance to watch the game live on NPL.TV, make sure you watch the replay because, it was a pulsating game of football, a game that, overall, both teams had periods of domination, I'd say, but ultimately, South Melbourne have been, I guess, well covered in terms of the moves they've made in the transfer market this season. Signing, players. It's very easy to say that a player has X factor, but there's absolutely, without question, that South Melbourne really has picked up players with X factor this season. And when we go through, the goals today, for example, South's first goal was a corner by Andy Brennan, obviously a new signing, headed home, with a superb glancing header by Pat Langlois, approximately in the 8th minute. A stunning header from two new players. We then unfortunately saw Bentley capitalise their Dutch striker. He capitalised on an error, I think, from Javi Diaz, the keeper. Now, I don't want to be tough on Javi, of course. He's a very, very good technical keeper. That error is one, obviously, that, he'll play back and analyse. Was it a question of the wind in the game? Was it a combination of him playing against his ex-club so soon after leaving them? It was an uncharacteristic error from what I've seen of Javi, both when he was at Bentley and so far at South Melbourne, to come out and, really misjudge the ball like that was disappointing, but it's happened early. You get that error out of the season. You get that error out of the system early on in the season, and hopefully, it's not an error that we'll see again from Javi. I'm actually pretty confident that we won't. But nevertheless, Bentley capitalised. They made it 1-1. Then South Melbourne, later on in the second half with some intricate play on the edge of the box, and I'm not 100% certain. I have to see the replay to see who won the penalty. But I know, for example, Mikola was involved. There was a couple of passes in and around the box, a flick out the back, and then came the foul on the South player. It may have been on Webb, but look, I'm guessing. So I'm not certain who won the penalty. It was definitely a clear penalty, so full marks to the referee, for pointing to the spot pretty quickly. I was a bit worried, to be fair, for a variety of reasons. Obviously, Marko Jankovic is the penalty taker of South Melbourne. He's never missed one, so you absolutely want him to take it, but he's playing against his ex-club, against his ex-teammate, Piers Clark, who is known to be, a penalty kick specialist, obviously. I think he tried to get into Marko Jankovic's head. He went to the bench where Coach Nick Tolios, I think, gave him a bottle of water. So he wasted a good minute doing that. And probably, a full 2 minutes later after the penalty was won, up stepped Jankovic. He laced it down the middle. Not his best penalty because he usually fools the keeper and places it into the corner down low. But I think he just thought, all things considered, let's just lash it down the middle. And thankfully, he hit it hard enough because Clark kind of went the right way, got a lot on it, but, effectively wasn't able to get enough on it. The ball came off Clark and into the roof of the net. South went up by 2-1. And to be fair, probably, I'd say, on the balance of the first half, it probably was close to being fair. Bentley might say, maybe it was a bit unlucky for us to be behind at halftime, but the reality is, they had that one goal, which was a clear error from South Melbourne, and other than that, I can't remember too many golden chances in the first half. But certainly in the second half, I've got to give credit to Bentley. The wind sort of seemed to pick up a little bit. It started to favour Bentley, and they did start to dominate possession. They were dominating possession, putting South Melbourne under a lot of pressure. But again, truth be told, no real golden chances. I remember there was one shot that sort of went past the upright. But South Melbourne, as we saw last season, there's one thing you can bank on South Melbourne, and that is that, with the defensive players that we have, and also, I'd say, with Ben Gibber improving as a footballer, as a right back, I always get worried in a way when I see Ben Gibber because he's a young player, and I see him, for example, coming up against a player like Pierce Wearing, who, who's a dominant player in the NPL Victoria, but, Gibber irrespective of who came up against him again today, he did it excellently well. So, with him improving his game, really the South Melbourne defence, I'd say, is even better than potentially last season. And in this game, even though Bentley were dominating possession, they were trying to press, South Melbourne was holding them out and were preventing golden chances. However, obviously Bentley did equalise, and it was a cracking strike. I think from a defender whose surname is Andrews. Just really, honestly, absolutely cracking goal. Would have been a contender for goal of the season if, Joe Ingham didn't score an absolute cracker soon after, or it wasn't soon after, but later in the game. Actually, it wasn't too far off. Sorry. Sorry for going backwards and forwards there. But, absolutely cracking strike. The ball fell to him just outside the box. I'd say maybe 20 yards. Maybe hit it with the outside of his foot, or either hit it, with his laces. The ball seemed to have some sort of outside curl. Goalkeeper Lopez had absolutely no chance. The ball nestled into the top corner. And at that point, at 2-2, I thought, maybe if South Melbourne can come away with a 2-2 draw, we'll be happy, because Bentley have had the ascendancy in the second half. It's really interesting to see as well, South fans. I was close to Nick Tolios, throughout the match, and it's just really interesting to see what sort of a coach he is. He is a coach that throughout the 90 minutes is giving advice. He's always and fairly, may I add, always talking to the fourth official, trying to gain an advantage for his team. It was good to see, a young coach like that in Victorian football being so involved, especially with the caliber of players that Bentley has. For example, they even had Josh Cavallo, injured. He wasn't able to play. So they have very good players, and to see a coach who's so confident, a young coach, and giving instructions all throughout the match, that was quite impressive. But I will say, it's one for Football Victoria to look at. Now, obviously, Bentley, they like to water the pitch before the game. No problems with that. It suits their style of play. But they also like to water the pitch at half-time, and unfortunately the sprinklers came on with probably about 1 or 2 minutes to go in the first half. I'd say it's because, I'm being generous here, but I think it's probably on the money. The council has probably programmed the times, and because the match started a little bit late, the sprinklers came on a little bit early. Now, I would say that if Bentley can't get direct control of those sprinklers, they really shouldn't be watering the pitch at half-time, in my opinion. And even if they want to water the pitch at half-time, it's a bit unfair on the opposition team, or even their own players, if they're trying to warm up, as an example. So, one for Bentley to consider, one for Football Victoria to consider. It was a little bit hilarious. The referee, I think, made the correct decision. The sprinklers, no one knew when they were going to turn off, so he called for half-time. Probably there would have been an additional minute of extra time, I would have thought, but given the situation of the sprinklers, I thought that was fair. Obviously a cracking goal, that Bentley scored to equalise. Probably, as I said, they deserved it from the overall pressure. Their period of possession domination was a good 15, 20, maybe even 25 minutes in the second half. Even though South Melbourne was holding, they got their goal. But then really, South Melbourne showed the additional quality, like an X factor, that's been brought into the club this season. Joe Ingham, he's come off the bench and he's taken it upon himself. Approximately, I think, 81st, 82nd minute, gets the ball down the right-hand side, cuts inside, 23 to 25 yards out, unleashes into the top corner. No chance for goalkeeper Piers Clark. Absolutely stunning strike. We said the Bentley goal was arguably a contender for goal of the season. Unfortunately, in the same game, unfortunately for the Bentley player, Joe Ingham has topped that effort, with an absolutely, stunning strike, and that's exactly why South Melbourne brought in a player like that. Last week signing, close to deadline day, a player that many clubs throughout the country and Victoria wanted. South Melbourne got him. He's come on. He might be slightly underdone from a fitness perspective, but he's got the confidence to score a goal, from 23 to 25 yards out and stick it into the top corner. Giving South Melbourne the 3 points. We've started the season with 2 wins against really, really top quality opposition. Heidelberg Raiders, a top 3 team. Bentley, I'd say, they have a really, really good squad. I've said a couple of times in this match today to various people, the one difference for Bentley, which may work against them, it just depends if they can find goals easily as their team develops, is that unlike the NSSCR this year, where they had players like Thurtell and Lucas, I feel they don't have that ease of goal scoring up front, and that may cost them. If they can solve that, I would also say they're probably a top 4 team. I wasn't certain because they lost a lot of players, but I saw their squad today. When you got players like Derek, for example, coming off the bench, we talked about Caveo not playing either. They've got a good squad. It's just whether or not they've got enough goals in their players, which I think is going to determine where they finish this year. But South Melbourne, 6 points from the first two matches, very, very difficult matches. Next week we play the Melbourne Knights. I was kind of hoping they would be able to get at least a draw against Avondale. They did lose 3-0 unfortunately, but they won their first game 5-0. If there's good weather, it's going to be a huge Melbourne derby. Both teams, South Melbourne can get off to a flying start with 3 wins. Melbourne Knights, I think they'd take 2 wins from their first 3 any day of the week. If there's good weather, I reckon this is a game that could get over 3,000 people, maybe more. Obviously, Knights fans like to travel. So I encourage all South fans, all Knights fans, all fans of football in Australia, in Victoria or interstate, who want to see a big game next week, to get to Lakeside Stadium on Friday night. 7:30, I think, is the kickoff, to see a cracking game of football and to see if South Melbourne can consolidate a spot. I'd say if we won 3 in a row in the top 2. Go South!